Hello and welcome back to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. I hope you're very well. I hope you're enjoying this very close-up angle of myself on the sofa, because today we're just gonna have a lovely chat, and I wanted to be comfortable and I wanted to be on the sofa for that, so here I am in two layers because it is now a bit nippy. Today we're going to be chatting hobbies. So I have a whole host of hobbies, of which I'm going to talk you through a lot of them now. But next year, 2026, I was thinking maybe I'd like to try a few more hobbies. And was wondering if I could get some inspiration from some of your hobbies, or if you know people who have interesting hobbies. Because next year I would like to, over the course of the year, try, let's say, 10 new hobbies and potentially take on one of those 10 hobbies that I've tried as a new hobby. So please, please, please chat below, let me know your hobbies, and I'm going to talk you through some of the things I already consider hobbies. I think we're best probably to start with reading. So reading has always been a hobby of mine ever since I was a young child. I could read before I went to school. Imagine. And I've always picked up books for as long as I can remember, and I have sort of like childhood memories of going on holiday and being able to get 14 books out to take on holiday, and after the 2 weeks of holiday having run out of books and having to like crack on to some of my dad's Clive Cusslers and things like that. The hobby has expanded in the last 10 years because I have now got a YouTube channel, which is also a hobby of mine, whereby I talk about reading and share with you what I've been reading every month. I also do that over on my Instagram. I review every book that I read, in majority, over on Instagram at Lauren and the Books. And I also share with you books that I've got out from the library, books that I've been sent by the publishers, which is a lovely result to get out of a hobby, and books that I've bought, and I also make other sort of reading vlog videos and things like that. So yeah, those, I mean, reading has always been a massive hobby, but to have this sort of like elevation of the hobby that I can now share my reading with loads of other people out there is just joyous. And I love every single video I make. I get the same thrill as when I first used to make videos, and talking about books, like if I'm reading and reviewing books and hearing that people have thought the same as me or thought differently, or doing book hauls and people saying, oh, I read that and I didn't like it. Like, I just love the discussion. I love all the discussions that we come up with. That has also led on to me running a couple of book clubs, which I guess also counts as a hobby. I'm currently a member of 2 book clubs, one of which I run and one of which I attend. And that's the first time I've ever attended a book club that I haven't run. And that started this year, and that's been an absolute joy. The book club that I run is a Patreon book club. The details are always linked down below. And you can support me on Patreon for $5 a month, and as part of that you get to be part of my book club. And at the end of the month, the last Sunday of every month, we discuss a book that you guys have picked, the Patreons have picked, and there's different themes every month. For example, this month was Black History, UK Black History Month mixed with memoirs. Next month is, it's a bit of a loose theme actually, next month is books I think will be good. And then we've got a Christmas book coming up in December. But yeah, there's all sorts of different themes throughout the month, and I pick 2 books, you guys pick from those books, and then we discuss it at the end of the month. It is a joy. I look forward to it every single month, and it's so lovely that I've got new people starting all the time, and I've got people that have been there since the beginning. And yeah, so that's one of my book clubs, and like I said, the details are always linked down below. But I recently joined a WI book club at my local library. I was just in there browsing one afternoon, and I could hear people talking about books, and I said to the librarian, what's going on over there? I can hear people talking about books. And she said, oh, that's our WI book club. And I said, oh, do you have to be part of the WI to take part? She said, no, you don't. And I said, are they looking for new members? She said, go and ask them. So I went round there, and this lovely big group of older women, I said, are you looking for new members? I really, really like, I could hear you talking and I'd love to join. And I've been doing that for a couple of months now. And actually, as part of that, I now volunteer at the library. So we were having a chat, and they were saying that before COVID, they always used to have tea and biscuits, and then COVID happened, and then when they come back they never had tea and biscuits. And I said, oh well, I'd love to be able to do the tea and biscuits for you. So I asked the librarian, and she said, you have to be a volunteer to be able to do that, to have access to the kitchen and the hot water and all of that sort of thing. And I said, well, I'd love to do that. So I now am a volunteer at my local library, and not only do I do the teas and coffees and set up the tables and everything for the book club, in the new year it looks as though I'm going to be delivering books to people who can't get out to the library, and there's a monthly home delivery book service that my local authority runs, that is run through various libraries. So yeah, so I'll be giving up some time in the new year to deliver some books to people who can't get out, which just fills me with joy. So yeah, lots of bookish stuff because of my reading hobby, which has led to more hobbies, which has been lovely, lovely, lovely. So yeah, I would say reading is my main hobby. In terms of like how much time I spend doing reading, it's a lot. It's a lot because I read, there's times, there's sort of like non-negotiables when I read every single day for definite, and that is always before I go to bed. I always read for about 40 minutes before I go to bed, and it sort of like is my ritual, my routine before I go to bed. So I will go and read whilst I'm brushing my teeth. I will read while I'm having a loo. I will read when I get back to bed, and I'm reading whilst I'm taking the tablets that I need to take before I go to bed, and then and this is all sort of like sat up reading, and then I say to David, I'm entering phase 2, which is the laying down reading, and then I sort of read until I feel like I'm going to drop off, or sometimes I have dropped off and David's come to bed and found me book on face or Kindle on face. It is nicer when I'm reading on a Kindle because it means I can turn the lights off, because my Kindle is backlit. I don't have it hugely brightly backlit, but I have it backlit enough that I can read in the dark, and that's very nice. And I always pop on Classic FM while I'm reading there. So that's a non-negotiable. So every day, without fail, I'm reading for 40 minutes before bed every single night. I also read on my lunch break. Sometimes that can be as little as 10 minutes, sometimes that can be my full half hour, but that's another, like there's always, that's always when I'm reading. So that's weekdays when I'm at work, always reading on my lunch break. And then I guess I'm just sort of like reading in the bath. So whenever I have a bath, I will always read in the bath, and I'm always in the bath for like half hour, 45 minutes. So that's another time. So like I'm bathing 3 or 4 times a week, so that's another time. And then there's other times when I make time to read, I guess. So if I get home from work and David hasn't quite finished work, or he's not here, he'd been in London for the week, for the day, I'll maybe do some chores or whatever I need to do, and then I'll sit and read for an hour on the sofa. So I do make time for that. So yeah, I do a lot of it, but I make the time for it. It is my hobby. I would prefer to be reading than watching telly. I do love to watch telly and I love to watch films, but reading is always my preference. And even things like if we go to the cinema, I'm reading whilst the trailers are on, or whilst we're waiting for the film to start. If we're in the car and David gets out to get petrol, I'm reaching for my book to read my book. So I'm not much of a scroller on my phone, I guess. So I guess that's where time sometimes escapes. If I go on my phone to look at Instagram, it's because I'm looking for something. I will have a little scroll at what's been updated, but I'm not a sort of endless scroller. So I'm quite fortunate with that, I guess, that I'm able to sort of spend time and just think, right, I'll get back to reading now, because that's where my joy lies, I guess. So yeah, so I would say easily I'm reading 3 hours a day, like minimum, probably. And I'm also listening to audiobooks as well. So if I'm ever driving anywhere on my own, audiobooks. If I'm ever walking anywhere on my own, audiobooks. Sometimes at work, audiobooks. If I'm doing a sort of task that I don't need full concentration on, so maybe like data input or something like that, putting things in envelopes, etc., cleaning, audiobooks are always on as well. So yeah, that's how much time I spend reading. So yeah, so that is the reading hobbies. Then I've got sort of like artier hobbies, and I'm sat here with my project this year, which I didn't end up getting finished, but I will finish at some point. And I'm quite into cross stitch as well. So this is a cross stitch project that I started at the beginning of the year and had designs to finish this year. It won't be finished this year, and more on that later. But this is a pattern that I got from Cross Stitcher magazine. I've made plenty of little other bits that you would have seen in videos of mine, and last year I made a lot of Christmas gifts, which were little initials with like a little Christmas figurine next to it and things like that. I've got a big Christmas cross stitch that we get out every year, and yeah, there's just a lot of like little cross stitchy bits in the house. David also really enjoys cross stitch, and yeah, this was a plan that I wanted to do this year, and I haven't got around to finishing it, but it now it's very sort of spring summery, and we're now definitely in the autumn of the year, so I wouldn't be really wanting to do this anyway. This feels more sort of like a spring summer hobby, so I will pick this back up probably in the new year and finish it next year. But yeah, I really love doing cross stitch, and I love doing cross stitch and listening to audiobooks. I love cross stitch listening to podcasts, watching television, watching films. I feel very focused when I'm watching films and doing this, because I'm not reaching for my phone, or I'm not talking to David or like that. And if we're both doing cross stitch whilst we're watching something, then we are silent and we watch the whole thing. So yeah, this sort of coincides with watching things. But I really, really love cross stitch, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it and potentially doing a little bit of Christmas cross stitch as we get nearer the Christmas season. So, but the cross stitch got put on hold because at the beginning of the year I treated myself to a crochet course whereby one of the local craft groups where I live, she ran a 5-week crochet course where we learned to do some basic crochet hooks, crochet stitches, and learn how to make granny squares and what we could potentially do with those granny squares. I really struggled to learn how to crochet, really struggled to learn how to crochet, and I wouldn't confidently sit here and tell you that I know how to crochet. What I know how to do is one particular stitch and make massive granny squares. So this is a blanket that I'm currently crocheting for my sister-in-law's dog for Christmas, yeah, I've learned how to do the, well, I believe it's called a double crochet stitch, and just make massive granny squares. So I would really like to hone my crochet skills and be able to do a lot more. My mum bought me for Christmas, she knew that I was going to be doing the crochet course, a box of different crochet granny squares you can make with lots of different stitches and things like that, and I've not even been able to negotiate that because I can only really do one thing which is this, which when I was learning, the teacher who was teaching us was calling this a double crochet stitch, but then I've since learned that there's different terminologies in the UK and US, so it may well be that that is not what it's called. But yeah, I've had a great time making blankets. I've made blankets for a few of my new babies that have arrived in my life this year from friends and my nephew. I've made a whole host of blankets for Christmas and am making blankets for Christmas. The work that goes into this takes a long time, so this has really made me appreciate, in the same way that the cross stitch has as well, but this has really taken a long time. Like this so far that I've done, this is about 11 hours work, and it's not finished or particularly big. It's for a dog, so it's not going to be a particularly big one, but yeah, it's really made me think about how much time it takes to put into particular things, and like items of clothing and blankets, and how you can go to the shop and buy a blanket for, well, I think in IKEA you can buy a blanket for like £2 or something, not knitted but a fleecy one. And it just got me thinking about how much labour goes into these sorts of things and how that isn't always replicated in the price. So yeah, a lot of people who will be getting blankets off of me for Christmas this year know that blood, sweat and tears has gone into these, and love as well. Blood, sweat and love have gone into these. So yeah, so that, when I learned how to crochet, and also I wanted to keep on board with it because I knew I'd be doing a lot of things for Christmas, the old cross stitch took a bit of a back seat, but yeah, it would be nice to sort of be able to share those out next year with potentially another crafty hobby. So yes, those are the two sort of crafty bits I've done. I also do sort of dabble a little bit in painting. I've got a watercolour set that my sister bought me one year for Christmas. We've just had a really fun session at David's sister's house where we did portraits of one another. David and I did a portrait of each other, and yeah, I did that with acrylics. I've never used acrylics before, so. But I wouldn't consider myself, like, I don't come up with great ideas. I'm a very good sort of, I'm good at copying things. So like I was copying David sat opposite me, or a picture of David, but I don't think I've got much imagination when it comes to that, which I don't know. Yeah, maybe that is true. I don't feel like I've got much imagination, but I feel like with painting, you need to sit down and spend a good few hours with it, and it doesn't really coincide with watching telly or other things. So maybe it'll be with audiobooks, or maybe with podcasts or music or something. But yeah, I feel like I'm less likely to reach for that. But it's something I've dabbled with in the past and I do enjoy. And then the last thing, I guess, is walking. So I've always been enjoyed walking. I've always done a lot of walking, like always walk to and from school and all of those sort of things. But in recent years, it has been a sort of thing that I like to do with David, or do with friends, or do with family. And last year I bought myself the book Kent, 40 Favourite Walks. I live in Kent. And with the design this year to get through all of the 40 walks, I thought that might have been a bit of a tall ask, because that's basically like one a week with 12 weeks off. And I knew that we wouldn't be doing much walking in the summer because David and I are not summer walkers. We're sort of like limited movement in the summer. Well, on top of that, David also broke his foot, so was out of action for longer than the 12 weeks. And we've only just got back into doing this after the last walk we did, I think, was in June for Father's Day. And we did a walk last weekend at Folkestone East. I will link that down below. It wasn't the most successful of walks. The route was overgrown, so we were unable to continue along it. And there was some, part of the route was closed as well. But yeah, I had a lovely time going through these walks, and we've done 15 so far out of the 40, and I think this will be something that we continue into next year, and potentially finish there. But yeah, this has been lovely, particularly like we've eaten some great food in restaurants and pubs and food vans whilst we've been doing this. We've gone on various walks. I've done some with my cousin, I've done some with my friend, I've done some with my parents. It's been really, really nice to, and just some with just David and I, and it's been really, really nice to share these experiences. And like, I can flick through here and think, oh yeah, I remember what we ate when we did that. So let's have a look. Capstan Farm Country Park. So we did that at the beginning of the year. It was me, David and my friend Emma. It was a short one, it was only an hour, but it was so frosty, and we went quite early, and the ground was really crispy and crunchy, and you could see our breath in the air. And yeah, I remember sitting on a bench on this sort of playing field that was part of the walk, and sitting and having a cup of tea and one of those little petit maman biscuits. No, that's jam. You know, the French type of biscuits, and doing that. So this book is full of memories for me, and will continue to be. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed the walks that we've done out of here, and will continue to do. So there we go. I mean, I think that's enough hobbies to be getting on with, but I would love to hear from you guys what hobbies you have. If you've got unusual hobbies, sorry, also on top of this has involved a little bit of bird watching, because whilst we've been out, we've downloaded, I used to do bird watching when I was younger, and I've always been quite good at identifying birds but not their song, but I've now got the Cornell bird app where you can identify their songs, and we're doing a little bit of bird watching whilst we've been out on those walks as well. There we go. So those are the hobbies, and like I said, I think that's probably enough hobbies to be getting on with, but I really would like the opportunity to try some new ones next year. So from the chat below, please let me know what your hobbies are. Let me know if you know anyone who's got interesting hobbies, and mention those down below. There's sort of, I'm going to take it from all, like, I'd like to try these hobbies for like a month to give them a little go. So maybe it won't just be like a one-off thing, but also some of them are going to involve a bit of spend, I guess, and some of them are potentially going to involve me not being able to do them because I don't live in an area where that sort of activity is available to me. Some of them will be free and lovely, and I'll very much enjoy doing that. But please, please, please let me know your hobbies down below. Let me know other hobbies that you've heard of, things you maybe always wanted to try, things you've never done but you've been frightened of. Hobbies, hobbies, hobbies. We want to chat them in the comments. And then keep an eye on 2026, because that's going to be sort of the year of trying a few new hobbies for me, and potentially taking on a new one when we reach the end of the year. So yes, thank you so much for joining me. I better get back on with more crocheting, and I'll see you all again soon for another book tube video. Goodbye.